Didn't plug it. Just going live with the great Sam Youngman of the Alt Media. Today's big stuff, which I love and everybody should be subscribing to. It's a must read for me each and every day. Mr. Youngman, welcome back. So great to see you.
Pete, it's great to be with you, buddy. I appreciate that we didn't promo this. We're just doing it Bill O'Reilly style. We said, F it, we'll do it live, and here we are.
You pay such close attention to the news. You produce the newsletter, so you have thoughts and ideas. You're very well plugged in, and we always love getting your take on all these important stories. None is more important than former President Biden's health. We learned that he has prostate cancer. It's advanced. It's probably had it for a while. And the reactions to it have been, well, all the way across the spectrum, from thoughts and prayers from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and somebody even wrote a post for Trump because clearly he didn't wish him well, to Obama and Kamala, and then other people questioning the timing of the release of this. Sam, what do you want to say about all of this? The book, the announcement, it's a big deal. It's a big story.
Well, because I don't want to be like Jake Tapper or Mark Wayne Mullen, let me start where a decent person would start and say, hey, I really hate to hear this about Joe Biden. I hope he's okay, because cancer sucks. I lost my mom to cancer. I think most people have lost somebody to cancer. They know somebody who somebody in their families they've lost to cancer. The idea that even this is in bounds for some of these people to politicize, oh man, it shows you just how far we've fallen. And
John Jr. said something about the timing of it all as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a great time to get cancer. I don't think people get cancer for a PR move. The idea that we're suggesting Joe Biden developed prostate cancer in order to turn the page from whatever Politico or Axios or CNN were reporting last week, that sounds a bit craven. I'm not even sure Trump's, whatever fake shit went down in Butler, I don't even know that he'd be up for this.
Yeah, exactly. He was asked about that assassination. Did you see that clip? He was asked, was it Maria Barter, whoever interviewed him?
I thought it was Brett Baer, but yeah.
It was Brett Baer asked him about how come we don't know more about that shooter, and he had a mealy mouth answer. He didn't say anything, but it is an important question, and people on the right want to know about that. They want to know about the Epstein files. That was a weird moment when he asked him about that shooter.
I know. I just want to grab Joe Rogan and shake him and be like, dude, you see conspiracy theories everywhere, but Butler seems on the up and up to you. Really? You don't have any questions there?
A lot of questions remain about that. Let me just go back to President Biden for a second. I love the idea that he's known that he had cancer for a while and was getting really beat up by this Jake Tapper book. And just was like, you know what? Well, guess what? I have cancer and I don't have long to live, and go fuck yourselves. And I'm Joe Biden.
Yeah. You feel good now, Jake? Yeah. Yeah, no. Look, if there is that fuck you involved, then I have to respect it. But I think the reality is Joe Biden is a man who has been stalked by tragedy his whole life. Despite that, he's given 50 years to this country. And instead of even having a modicum of respect for that service, what we've seen, I think, are gutless, cowardly Beltway reporters who are way too afraid to take on the guy who was up till 2 a.m, all caps, attacking Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen. And instead, they're going after the 82-year-old guy with cancer because, hey, he won't send an angry mob after him, right?
It's pretty weird that Trump, by the way, said, I didn't realize this till last night, he really did say, you just never know what's real. You never know. People would believe I would believe anything. He said Taylor Swift is no longer hot. He said that, right?
Yeah, I guess he thinks she's just missing like 3 pounds of orange makeup to get there.
He's an almost 80-year-old man talking about, he's the president of the United States, talking about whether or not a woman, any woman, is attractive. I don't want to be used to that at all. I want to just make a big deal out of that.
But I feel like it's growth. I mean, during the first term, he referred to his porn star mistress as horse face. So, I mean, maybe this is growth on the Trumpian scale.
There are a lot more important issues I want to talk with you about. I feel like, we should spend a good amount of time thinking about, and networks and everybody should spend a lot of resources reporting on the big, beautiful bill, which I think should be called, and Democrats are calling it the big, bad billionaires bill, I think is better name, because I was reading the history, and you covered this and I covered it as well, when Obama and Democrats tried to get Obamacare done, and it took weeks in committees and markups and so on. And they are literally passing this without markups, without knowing what's in the bill at hardly at all, and overnight, in the middle of the night. I feel like this should be probably one of the biggest stories. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I was looking today. Jennifer Bendry at the Huffington Post was noticing that the committee hearing for Wednesday is at 1 a.m. Really, several days out there scheduling this hearing for 1 a.m. I mean, I think, I always roll my eyes when somebody says, oh, well, what Trump's doing is a distraction. But I do think there's something to the idea that he was tweeting about Beyonce on the same night that House Republicans were pushing through a bill that would take away health care from 14 million people, Americans, that would screw over poor people just to give Elon, Leon, Melvin Musk another tax cut that he clearly needs.
It's crazy, but just to be clear, we're talking on Monday, and Mike Johnson, his aim apparently is to get this passed by Thursday. So again, I feel like everybody should be ringing the bells on this. Of course, it would then have to go to the Senate, and then Trump badly wants to sign this bill, but man, we would not know the consequences. We don't know what it's going to do to, I mean, everything that the way we live and things that we depend on. And so I just think that everybody should be paying attention to this as probably the most important issue of the week. I'm saying it right now, Sam.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely with you. I will say there is, I think, a political silver lining here in that the Senate is not going to embrace this bill that the House nut jobs have passed. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of so-called moderate House Republicans. And we're talking about people that were fine with January 6th. So I don't know how moderate they are. But I do think you're seeing them walking the plank with these just vicious attacks on Medicaid. And they'll have to answer for that next November.
One of the big stories today, of course, is that Trump took a phone call or got on the phone with Vladimir Putin, his handler. And I don't know if there's any reporting and if anybody else is on that call. I guess when the calls, it could be any number of people could be listening in. But apparently Trump calls up Putin and just caves, surrenders. I mean, he does it with the Chinese on trade. He's doing it with Putin on the war here, it seems. What's the reporting? What have you read about that phone call today?
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing you are, which is Trump surrendered to Putin again. It looks like he got off the phone and said, hey, they're going to do a ceasefire or maybe not. And, he sort of seemed to give up every condition he had beforehand. You had J.D. Vance, who was on Air Force Two, and when he wasn't being a complete dick about Joe Biden having cancer, he was saying, hey, maybe we'll just walk away because this is Putin's war and Joe Biden's war. Well, gosh, who benefits if the United States walks away? It sure is hard to figure that one out, right? Look, I think Trump has always planned on surrendering to Putin. The real hiccup in his plan was when Zelensky wasn't on board with that. Surrender is not in Zelensky's vocabulary, and it's at the top of Trump's when it comes to China and Russia.
What do you make of the current, you've always got plenty to say, Sam, about the White House press corps, the developments with the press corps in terms of who's in, who's out, and their access and what they get to ask. Let me just say that in their defense, anybody who has access to the president or spokespeople in the White House, on Air Force One, anywhere else, has to be careful what they ask, or it will be the last question that they ask. If you and your network want to stay in the room, there's a certain protocol that you have to follow. And I don't think that means you need to be a supplicant like some of these new right-wing alt media folks that are in there. But what do you think about the quagmire that they are all in with asking tough questions like ABC did last week? What's her name? I forget that reporter's name. She's always good.
Yeah. Rachel Scott, who I agree is a great reporter. Look, they've put themselves in this position. Years of training wheels coverage for Trump, being hard on everybody else. They basically invited this upon themselves. What's the value of staying in that room if there are restrictions on what you're allowed to ask or say? I don't know that I see the value in that. One thing, you asked me my general thoughts on the White House press corps. Let me say this. Over the weekend in my native Kentucky, more than a dozen people were killed by tornadoes. The National Weather Service there has been gutted like it's been gutted other places. So what was the White House press corps asking about today? Hillary Clinton's body count. How many people Hillary Clinton has killed? That was a real fucking question at the White House press briefing today. So I guess the people of Kentucky, who are still waiting to see if they're going to get any FEMA relief from a president who clearly doesn't give a shit, but the press corps doesn't seem to either. You know, if they're not there to ask questions on behalf of the people like my fellow Kentuckians, then what the hell are they there for? Themselves?
Yeah, heart goes out. Those storms were terrible. I saw videos. The death count, I think there was like 40 in several different states. And I heard one major city's mayor, I forget who it was, said that they hadn't heard anything yet from FEMA. The federal government hadn't reached out yet. I don't even know if FEMA is still a thing, if it is a thing. Yesterday, by the way, it's hard to know where any department or agency is. It's impossible to keep track of. But I read this horrifying headline yesterday that the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division just lost like a huge amount, an agency changing amount of their lawyers resigned because
Yeah.
I guess, the lawyers at the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice don't want to make America great again and don't agree with the idea that it's white people who are the major victims, not black and brown folks and gay folks and so on. It's crazy what's happening at DOJ. Tell me your thoughts on Pam Bondi's leadership.
Well, you mean Pam Bondi, who was on the Qatari payroll until she got this job?
Hey.
Yeah, it's appalling, man. I mean, if you've devoted your life to civil rights, litigation, and then a new person comes in and says, "Hey, we don't give a rat's ass about voting rights anymore. Instead, we're going to use this office to push the 2020 big lie." How could you possibly stay there and be a part of that? I think somewhat selfishly, I don't know about you, but I've been watching Andor, and so I'm all about this, like the inner workings of a rebellion these days. And you do hope that some people would sort of strategically stay behind to gum up the works from the inside. Uh, but I don't know that I could, in good conscience, ask anybody to do that these days,
Yeah.
knowing what they're being asked to do, knowing what they're being asked to overlook. It's appalling. I mean, you're basically watching the U.S. government being refitted, retrofitted to pull a complete 180 and go after the very ideals it used to, be there to protect.
Wait till somebody.
Fred Hampton notwithstanding.
Well, there's more than Fred Hampton, but yeah, that's a great. It's a great call, of course. Yeah, I am watching Andor. I'm on episode 3. I just started it. It is very, very good, and it is clearly representative of what we're dealing with right now in the U.S. and around the world. I got to ask you what you thought of Trump's trip to the Arab world. His first overseas trip was to not our best friends. This case, or the last time he was president, either he made all kinds of deals. Apparently, he's siding more with the Arab world than Israel's leadership now. It's kind of crazy. I got whiplash from that whole trip. What are your thoughts on what got done or did not get done, or how much he enriched himself?
Well, they asked Willie Sutton, "Why do you rob banks?" He said, "That's because that's where the money is." And same thing with Trump. Like, there's a reason he went to the places where, Jared Kushner got a $2 billion golden goose right after leaving the White House the first time. Look, the $400 million bribe from Qatar doesn't even get into the Trump properties that he's developing there. We have never seen, nor have we even imagined corruption on a scale like this. What we're seeing, I mean, it's wild. Everybody used to say, "Oh, Trump has so many Watergates." He has like 6 Watergates before lunch and like a couple teapot domes before his afternoon nap. I mean, we've never seen anything like this. And I think you're still seeing every day that the political world, the media world, they don't know how to wrap their brains around it. It's almost like they can't comprehend it.
I'm worried about the Supreme Court because I'm an American and I'm alive. And
Yeah.
there's been some major cases that have been argued recently. There's been some decisions handed down. Where are we, Sam Youngman, on rule of law as we speak here at the towards the end of May 2025?
I mean, we're the country that we just found out gave $5 million to Ashley Babbitt's mom. So I don't know that we're, super rule of law-y these days. In fact, it seems like we've sort of turned our back on it pretty badly.
That's crazy.
The court is sort of fascinating to watch these days. You do have, I think, John Roberts and Amy Coney Barrett are, even those soulless creeps are sort of realizing, oh gosh, we've created a monster that's devouring everything. I don't expect John Roberts to start exhibiting anything that even resembles courage anytime soon. But it has been sort of fascinating to watch them push back on the Alien Enemies Act, things like that. Uh, but it's terrifying to say, but this broken, corrupt court is our last line of defense between a lawless lunatic and his quest for vengeance.
Oh, well said. Did you see that? I couldn't believe this was real either. Apparently, the Department of Agriculture has a giant banner of Trump's face in
Yeah.
between its historic Greek pillars or whatever they are. Like there's a giant banner, and it looks like something from obviously the Third Reich or like a Marvel movie of Hydra or the bad guys anywhere in history or in fiction. It's a giant picture of angry looking Trump hanging from the United States Department of Agriculture. I just couldn't believe it was real, but apparently that's something that is happening.
Yeah, they were smart to hang it high enough to where the people of Washington can't piss on it. But I do think I am betting on the people of Washington to somehow figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah, that's like the plantation that was burning. I was pretty concerned about that.
Yeah, we enjoyed putting that in our newsletter this morning. I had a friend visiting this weekend. He came over for a cookout Saturday night. He said, Black people have been talking about this all day. We've been sharing it on social media. We've been sharing this on text chains. And I thought, good. I wasn't the only one celebrating. There's a lot of people cheering those flames as they burned higher and higher. And yeah, I guess there's a lesson in there to remember is, it may take a couple centuries, but we got long memories. We can burn it all down.
Uh, Let me ask you just about Democrats right now and your thoughts on the performances that they are giving in all ways at town halls, at committee hearings. I feel like a lot of really great and impactful performances at hearings and on television. I like Senator Chris Murphy a lot. Of course, I like AOC and Jasmine Crockett as a lyricist, and very, very effective. And I mean, absolutely fearless, all of these people. But I'm not quite sure what to make of this tweet or post on Blue Sky that you wrote, that you said, I recently went to a Bernie rally. I regret the mistake and it won't happen again. And this is referring to a Mediaite story that says Bernie Sanders joins Andrew Schultz in nuclear takedown of Democratic Party, agrees it's a threat to democracy. I didn't see the interview, but what is your take here, this criticism on him, and what about the rest?
I think, like a lot of people, I'm disappointed. I'm always disappointed to see Bernie equating the Democratic Party to a Republican Party that is destroying democracy. They are not the same. And to compare the two because you lost an election in 2016, to me, is just petty. And it's very poorly timed. I'm seeing a lot of Democrats who think that the best way to curry favor with Chuck Todd and Jake Tapper is to throw Joe Biden under the bus. They think that this is going to win them voters in the future. I guess what I'm looking for is strength. That fearlessness that you just mentioned with Jasmine Crockett. Show me somebody who's not afraid of Jake Tapper. Show me somebody who's not afraid to stand up for democratic values. Show me somebody who's not ashamed to be a Democrat. That I'll get on board with. But going to these Beltway media shows and just trashing our party over and over again because that's how you get the cool kids to like us, I'm not down with that. I've been to way too many county Democratic meetings. I've seen way too many people on the ground working their asses off for their ideals to just see them trashed over and over again by people who never leave Beltway green rooms.
Oh, wow.
On my high horse today.
I like your horse. I like your horse now, however high it is. It's a great horse, and we always love.
It's a California horse. It's high as hell.
Oh man, I love talking to you about all of this and everything else. One more question, which is on what we're seeing with the issue around immigration and the deportations. We heard a lot from Homeland Security head Kristi Noem, who she loves to dress up, and she really seems to love this job. But man, I thought there was a lot of Democrats who did a really good job taking her to task and holding her feet to the fire when she was sitting there at those hearings last week. But what are your thoughts about what we're seeing in this country regarding, deportations? Also, of course, the most outrageous thing was that we're sending black and brown people out, refugees. I'm talking about the Afghan and Cameroonians that were here under protection status, temporary protection status, and we're bringing in super racist white South Africans, apparently, according to their social media timelines. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Gosh, it sure is hard to figure out what's going on here, right? I mean, it can't possibly be what we're seeing with our own two eyes. It's I keep going back to 2016 when New York Times reporters were saying, we just can't really know what's in Trump's heart. We don't know if the birther guy is a racist or not. We don't know if the guy who wanted the Central Park Five put to death is a racist or not. They were so vexed by this, this question of whether, Trump and his Klan rally attending father could possibly be racist. And yeah, he's a racist. He's kicking out 2-year-old brown kids in the middle of cancer treatments and importing white South Africans, anti-Semites. I mean, I don't know. This does not require, like, you don't have to be a genius to see what this is. He's a racist. He always has been. He fired an enormously, a enormously qualified black man at the Pentagon and replaced him with an alleged drunk, an alleged rapist, and Pete Hegseth, who can't, stop inviting half the damn phone book to his Signal chats. The idea that Donald Trump has ever been anything other than a racist is, well, just too dumb to contemplate.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Very well said. I knew it back in 2004.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were in New York, you knew it. And if you were a black or brown American, you knew it because you watched The Apprentice and you saw the way he talked and treated the black people. And it was like, what are you doing? Whether they were the token, celebrity contestant or, the regular apprentice, it was like people knew. You could always tell. It's not hard to tell. So I'm glad that you went back and defined it in that time frame. Very important. All right. Anything else that we're missing that we didn't talk about?
Tomorrow's a Tuesday, so if there are elections near you, make sure you get out and vote and don't vote for the assholes.
That's right. We got a big school board election that I've been working on and making calls for. I'm helping out my friend, and great point. Thank you so much, Sam. We love you and appreciate you. Thanks for joining us live.
Pete, you're the best. Thanks, man.